Welcome back. Our guest tonight is Matt O'Connor, founder of Fathers for Justice. Matt, Christmas is a very lonely time for fathers, as you well know. You've been very successful with a lot of your stunts. What have you got planned for us for Christmas?
Well, obviously, I can't go into too much detail, but we have got, we are hoping to have 2,000 Father Christmases outside Buckingham Palace on the 18th, Saturday the 18th of December, in an appeal to the Queen. And there will be other events happening around that. Around London and across the country.
Some of your tactics leave a lot to be desired. I mean, I would say your actual harassment of Dame Elizabeth Butler-Schloss. I think parking outside her home, outside any woman's home, is a form of harassment.
Why should it matter that she's a woman, for goodness sake? Here's the great hypocrisy, though, of this, isn't it? And the hypocrisy is, just because she's a woman, apparently it's wrong. If it was a male judge, you'd be out there with your placard.
No, actually, I would say...
Why is it harassment for her because she's a woman?
No, actually, I would say that it's wrong outside of a male judge's house as well. But I think it's more intimidating for a woman. And it's probably...
These guys,
not
from
like
what I've
don't
seen, they protest non-violently.
I have to say,
Matt.
but it was done with a whole lot of humour. I mean, a nice DJ, some great kind of clubby tracks going out across the fields of South Devon, and we thought it was more the kind of Woodstocky kind of vibe thing than anything that was intimidating. And you know, somebody said to me the other day about Margaret Hodge getting handcuffed. You know, it was a pair of bedroom fluffy handcuffs.
Yeah, but people have ended up... Yeah. I have to say, if someone came up and handcuffed me in public before you get in, Piers, I would be absolutely terrified, actually. I think it's a profoundly intimidating thing to do, especially to a public figure.
I think if you look at what we've done, we've used a huge amount of humour. We've tried to have this kind of Python-esque Ealing comedy type vein running through everything that we do to try and get around this fact that, you know, many commentators do try and demonise dads and make Madonnas out of mums. We need to get past that stereotype. And there's this kind of bigotry. If I was black, you wouldn't be saying it. If I was Jewish, you wouldn't be saying it. If I was gay, you wouldn't be saying it. Because I'm a white, middle-class man, it's perfectly acceptable to label us all in that kind of way.
I don't label you in that way at all. I don't see women as Madonnas, and I don't see all men as being irresponsible, hopeless men. I don't for a second. But I do see some of the things you are doing as being intimidating. And the thing that worries me more than anything else about your organisation is this sort of there's a flow underneath it of what I see as being pretty anti-woman. I mean, you have people in your organisation that call women bitches. You know, how do you live with that? How do you explain that?
Well, can I say to you, we have a very strict policy which is enforced with all our members. Terms and conditions of membership to Fathers for Justice are clear. We are pro-equality. We do not tolerate any sexist or any racist abuse, any misogyny of any description.
You have people in your organisation that call women bitches.
Well, I can't account.
We've seen the tapes. We've all seen the film.
I can't account for 12,000 people. I've not seen the tapes. I've not seen
you should actually account for them, because you know, an organisation like yours has to be cleaner than clean. You have people like that. Why don't you kick them out?
Well,
why don't you hunt them out and kick them out?
Rich, I wouldn't mind from somebody who was in the Conservative Party. I mean, I'm sure that the Peccadillos and Love Lives and most of our members in Fathers for Justice are actually damn sight healthier than those of most Tory MPs.
I've condemned most of that behaviour, Matt. I think I've got quite a good record on that. Will you condemn the men within your organisation that refer to women as bitches?
Well, yeah, I mean, nobody should be going around...
Will you kick them out?
Well, obviously, if there's evidence that we can see, we'll investigate.
Matt, don't you think that actually one of the things that you're on the coattails of now is there is a kind of massive sea change here. People don't take marriage seriously. You admit yourself you didn't take your own marriage very seriously. And you're representing a bunch of people who kind of go into marriage lightly, want to get out of it lightly, and want to take all of...
To the contrary. Actually, most I think that the figures would support the fact that most marriages, most divorces are instigated by women. And I think we have, as a society, to manage people's expectations about what you expect out of a contemporary relationship, out of a contemporary marriage. And you've seen relationships becoming far more informal than they used to be. You know, this month's boyfriend become next month's ex-boyfriend, and that's part of the problem. I mean,
it is certainly part of the problem, but a big part of the problem also is the amount of time men like you actually spent in their marriages. If you'd spent as much time on your marriage as you have spent campaigning, maybe you'd still be the happy dad with your kids, and maybe you'd still be with your wife.
I'd agree. I'd agree, and I wish that was so, and I wish I wasn't having to speak to you guys and stuff. I wish I was spending more time with my children now, as opposed to try and leave them a legacy, which is a right in law for them to see their children, for us, myself and Sophie, to see our grandchildren, and to leave a legacy for them, which is a better way of life, to make a difference.
Matt, we talked about David Blunkett earlier. I mean, what do you make of his case?
Well, yeah, it's staggering, frankly, that he can get into court so quickly. just like that, in an open court, which we've been campaigning for the last 2 years. But because he's the Home Secretary, it all opens up for him very quickly. But I'd say David Blunkett, don't rely on the solicitors, don't rely on the barristers, don't rely on the courts to do the right thing.
Do you believe he got preferential treatment, Blunkett?
Well, I think it's obvious to anybody who's going through the family court system that you just don't wind up in court that quickly, and you certainly don't wind up in an open court. That's one of the key tenets of our.
But there are different reasons for the open court because of the specifics of this case. But how much quicker do you think this is than a normal court case?
Well, it seems to be very quick. Obviously, I don't know the full details behind it, but it does seem to be astonishingly quick. My jaw was on the floor this morning when I heard he was in court already. I thought, how's this happening? Is it because he's fast-tracking his application?
Do you think he's right, though, Matt, to be doing what he's doing?
Absolutely. I would take issue with anybody who says that he should somehow just walk away. Changing, this is a father. You can't just change dads like light bulbs. This is a guy who's quite right to do the right thing, to have a relationship with his child, because his child will want to know his father.
But Matt, this is one of the most complicated cases, I believe, because it's a classic where, women have fought for a long time to make men like you accountable for your responsibilities. You then say we have rights as well, which I completely concede. But if you look in the case of David Blunkett, you have Stephen Quinn, who is happy to bring up the 2 children as his own. These children will be forever branded by this scandal, by the actions of David Blunkett. Surely what he has done is what you're accused of doing, is putting the father's rights and the father's happiness before the child.
But we've already identified, Amanda, that Parliament's intention, on Children Act, was that the best interest of the child was served by retaining love and care of both their parents. If Mr. Blunkett's the biological father, that baby deserves a relationship with his father. And you're blaming David Blunkett.
He's already got a father. He's already got a father, a man that's prepared to look after them.
A biological father. A man, you can't chop and change, devalue father.
And if David Blunkett walked away, by the way, who would be first on her high horse saying, you disgusting, feckless, failed father?
No, actually,
than Amanda Patel?
Actually, I would not. I would say,
you would.
David Blunkett, you've done the first unselfish thing in your entire life. Well done.
Absolute rubbish. You'd be saying you're a failed, feckless father.
I would not.
And you're walking away from your responsibility.
Under these circumstances, I would not.
The point is, what David Blunkett's about to go through is what's happening to 12,000 people in Fathers for Justice. And I'd say to him, that we will give him free membership, we'll fast-track his membership.
A free ladder, a Batman suit.
A free ladder, a free Batman suit.
David Blunkett in a Batman suit sounds good to me.
I would say, though, he doesn't need to powder bomb the Prime Minister once Cabinet meeting's finished. He doesn't need to handcuff himself to Margaret Hodge or climb Buckingham Palace. But we would say to him, there's a lot of advice and support he can get.
I think it's the best thing that could possibly happen to you. And also, look at the way Blunkett's been treated with his case. Straight into court, open court, all the arguments said. That's what these guys are fighting for. A bit of transparency. Stop the secrecy in these courts.
It's all very well to be transparent, and it may be the best thing for the fathers, but it's the worst thing for those children. No one can deny this.
Kids are very adaptable if they are told what's going on. Part of the problem with the system at the moment is half the stuff's kept from them by the law, and that's totally wrong in my view.
And the thing is, we have open courts. We already have open courts in Scotland. The courts are open. We have open courts. There are open courts in Florida. Children not growing up maladjusted.
Good enough for Scotland and America is good enough for us. Matt O'Connor, thank you very much.
That's all we've got time for. Join us again next week.
Good night.
Good night.
Indeed, Morgan and Platell are back talking to another topical guest next Saturday at 6. Back to tonight, it's Krishnan Gurumurthy and Kemin Zeram with the Channel 4 News next.